Why did the wind seem to watch her more closely than anyone else? At 12,000 feet, sound behaved differently. It didn't echo. It didn't linger. It was torn apart by the mountain before it could mean anything. Sergeant Anna Sharma learned that early at Fob Kestrel's perch. Up here, words were fragile. Actions weren't. The wind cut sideways across the landing zone, scraping skin through fabric, forcing men to hunch their shoulders like it might break their spines if they stood too tall. Anna didn't fight it. She angled her body, adjusted her footing, and kept moving. Not fast, not slow, efficient, invisible. Two privates struggled with a pallet behind her, boots slipping on packed ice. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Left side first, keep the weight close. Daya's paws secure the strap. They obeyed instantly, not because she outranked them, because her voice carried certainty, the kind that didn't argue. From the raised command platform, Captain Marcus Thorne watched her with a tightening jaw. He didn't like quiet competence. It felt like judgment, like someone taking notes he hadn't agreed to. She didn't look like a soldier to him. Wrapped in issued cold-weather gear, face hidden behind goggles and a fleece gaiter, she blended into the environment too well. Logistics. A clerk. Someone who counted boxes while real men froze. He said as much to Corporal Evans beside him, loud enough to be heard, soft enough to pretend it wasn't intentional. "Quartermaster playing dress-up," he muttered. "Bet she's never slept outside a heated tent." Evans laughed because that's what you did when the captain laughed. Thorne descended the steps with deliberate weight, boots announcing him before his voice did. He intercepted Anna just as the pallet touched ground. "I count 7 pallets," he said, voice carrying theatrically through the wind. "Manifest says 8. Anna didn't look up. She swiped her datapad once, then again. "The 8th pallet was rerouted to Fob Griffin at 600, sir. By your order. You needed the transport space." She finally raised her eyes. Calm, brown, flat, no challenge, no apology. "You redirected it for your personal footlockers." The wind swallowed the silence that followed, but not the tension. Thorne felt it. So did the privates, suddenly fascinated by straps that didn't need adjusting. He turned away sharply. "Inventory," he snapped. "Full supply depot on my desk by 2000, every item." "Yes, sir." She said it to his back. He still heard it. Work continued. Anna's movements never changed. The mountain didn't care about rank, only rhythm, only efficiency. But the wind had shifted, and she felt it. The briefing container smelled like old coffee and damp wool. A single flickering light buzzed overhead. Thorne stood at the map, red route slashed across a mountain spine called Serpent's Tooth. "Recon patrol, 24 hours," he announced. "Standard kit." Anna stood at the back, datapad glowing softly. The numbers didn't match his confidence. "Sir." The room paused. Thorne didn't turn immediately. That pause was intentional. "Yes, Sergeant." Barometric pressure is dropping 38 millibars an hour. Thermal inversion forming over the eastern ridge. Storm system accelerating. A few men shifted. Thorne smiled thinly. "And at altitude this becomes lethal within 18 hours, not 24. Silence, then chuckles. She continued anyway. "Standard rations won't meet caloric demand. Your men will burn twice what they're issued. Cognitive impairment starts within 10 hours. Thorne walked toward her slowly, stopped close enough that she had to look up. "You stack boxes," he said quietly. "You don't predict the weather." "My job is to keep soldiers alive," she replied. Same tone, same calm. The air thickened. Thorne searched her face for hesitation, found none. "Dismissed," he said softly. "Reorganize the supply tent perfectly." She nodded once and left. The supply tent was colder than outside. Still air, heavy. She worked under a bare bulb, breath clouding, fingers numb but precise. The storm grew teeth as the sky darkened. Then the tent flap opened. Snow exploded inward. Captain Thorne stepped inside holding a metal bucket, Evans and Diaz behind him, uneasy. "Comfortable in here, Sergeant," Thorne smiled. "Time you learned what cold feels like." The bucket tipped. Ice water slammed into her skull like a weapon. Shock stole her breath. Cold invaded instantly, neck, spine, core. Pain sharpened her senses to a single point. She didn't scream, didn't flinch. Water dripped from her lashes, froze on the floor. Thorne waited for something, tears, rage, begging. What he got was motion. One step forward. Her left hand touched his neck, not violent, almost gentle. Her right palm struck his chin. It wasn't loud, it was final. Thorne collapsed mid-blink, dead weight hitting ice. Silence swallowed everything. Anna flexed her fingers once, looked at the stunned soldiers. "Get the medic," she said calmly. "Tell the major it was an accident." The storm arrived 12 hours early. White erased the world. Radios screamed static. Patrol Viper 1 went silent. Major Davies stared at the map, knowing protocol had failed. Knowing pride had sent men into a storm that didn't forgive. And knowing the only person who warned them was locked in a steel box. He opened the container himself. Anna sat on the cot, still, waiting. "I need your help," he said. She looked at him without anger, without satisfaction. Just calm. That frightened him more than the storm. Sometimes dignity doesn't shout. Sometimes it waits until the mountain demands truth. Say continue and I'll deliver part 2, where the rescue begins and Anna's past starts to surface. You said. Part 2 with 1,000 plus. ChatGPT said. Why would a prisoner be the calmest person in the room when everyone else was panicking? The storm had swallowed the mountain whole. Not snow, not wind, something heavier. As if the sky itself had decided to descend and press its weight against every living thing beneath it. Inside the command post, radios hissed uselessly, maps curled at the edges, and men spoke too loudly to hide the fear crawling up their throats. Anna Sharma stepped out of the steel container and into that fear like it belonged to her. Major Davies watched her closely as the door slammed shut behind them, metal screaming in protest before the wind reclaimed the sound. She didn't rub her wrists, didn't stretch, didn't ask what had changed since the last hour, because she already knew. "The patrol's overdue," she said, not a question. Davies nodded, breath fogging. "Viper 1, Sergeant Miller's team." She closed her eyes for half a second, not grief, calculation. "They left before the pressure drop stabilized," she said. "They'll have tried to push altitude instead of sheltering." Davies swallowed. "Can you get them?" Anna didn't answer immediately. She looked past him, at the compound lights flickering through the whiteout, at men standing around with nothing to do but wait for bad news. Waiting killed faster than cold. "Yes," she said finally, "but not like this." Inside the supply tent, the transformation began, not dramatic, not announced, just inevitable. She moved with purpose now, stripping off soaked outer layers, replacing them with gear that never made it onto manifests. Experimental thermal suits slid over skin like liquid shadow, seamless, weightless. She checked seals with 2 fingers, tugged straps into place, adjusted balance points the way most people adjusted mirrors. Evans, Diaz, and Chun stood where she told them to stand. Quiet, no jokes, no eye contact. She handed out equipment without explanation at first. Let them feel the difference. Let the gear speak. "Strip to base layer," she ordered. They hesitated, then obeyed. "Everything standard issue absorbs moisture," she said, voice low but cutting clean through the storm. "Moisture kills. We don't negotiate with physics." She showed them how to move in the suits, how to breathe through the regulators, how to eat without stopping. Silver nutrient tubes tasted like chalk and regret, but heat bloomed in their cores within minutes. You don't chase warmth, she said. You conserve it. When she finally looked at them fully, they flinched. Not because she was angry, but because she was. The calm had sharpened into something else. Command stripped of rank. From here on, she said, you listen or you die. No one argued. They stepped into the storm, and the world vanished. White erased direction. Wind hit like a physical force, slamming into their chests, clawing at packs, ripping breath away mid-inhale. Anna angled forward, body aligned with the gale, snowshoes distributing weight perfectly. She didn't fight the mountain. She read it. Every step she took was measured, every pause intentional. The others struggled. Panic bloomed quickly at altitude. Dia stumbled first, caught a hidden rock, went down hard. The ground stole heat greedily, faster than the wind. Anna was beside him instantly. Not comforting, efficient. Breathe, she said, already tearing open his parka. Heat pack against sternum, nutrient tube to lips. She watched his pupils, counted seconds. You're not tired, she said. You're cold, there's a difference. He nodded shakily. Up. He rose because her voice left no room for alternatives. They moved again. Time lost meaning. There was only rhythm, crunch, breath, white. Anna navigated by sensation, pressure changes, wind shifts, the way snow compressed underfoot. The mountain spoke quietly. She listened. Hours later, she stopped. They'd shelter here, she said, gesturing to a granite outcropping barely visible through the storm. Dig. Hope tried to surface. She crushed it quickly. Hope makes you sloppy, work doesn't. The signal booster hummed faintly as she assembled it, fingers bare for seconds at a time, never long enough to lose dexterity. She swept the antenna slowly. Nothing. Evans felt something sink in his chest. Then faint, rhythmic. There, Anna said. They dug like their lives depended on it, because now they did. They found Miller's team buried together, cocooned in ice and bad decisions. Blue lips, shallow breaths, one shattered leg splinted with desperation. Anna took control without raising her voice. Plasma warmers, blankets now. She cut away fabric, checked pulses, stabilized airways. When she exposed Miller's arm, Evans saw the scars, the tattoo. Recognition hit him harder than the cold. Task Force Archangel. The stories his brother told, half myth, half warning. Medics who went where extraction wasn't possible. Operators who didn't make mistakes because mistakes meant no one came back. He looked at Anna with new eyes. She didn't look back. Defib, 200 joules. Shock snapped Miller's body, dragged him back from the edge. Anna didn't react. There was no victory in survival, only continuation. The return was worse. Weight slowed them. Wind strengthened. Chun lost footing near a ravine. Anna threw herself sideways, boots biting into ice, stopping the litter with her body. Build, she said when the storm peaked. They carved a snow cave with numb hands and burning lungs. Inside, the world softened. Wind dulled. Heat lingered. Anna worked continuously, checking vitals, rewrapping limbs, forcing calories into mouths that didn't want to eat. She didn't rest. Evans watched her and understood something painful and simple. She wasn't proving anything. She was preventing loss. When the pressure shifted, she sensed it before instruments did. 10 minutes, she said, then we move. They emerged into a quieter world. Twilight stretched over sculpted snow, stars piercing the thinning cloud. Fob Kestrel appeared like a mirage. Men gathered, silence spread. Evans snapped to attention without thinking. So did Diaz and Chun. It wasn't a salute. It was recognition. Captain Thorne stood there, jaw swollen, pride dismantled. When Anna passed him, their eyes met briefly. He nodded. She didn't. Later, under a single bulb, she sharpened an ice axe with steady strokes. Evans cleaned rifles nearby. No words passed between them. None were needed. The storm was over. The mountain had spoken, and Anna Sharma had listened again. Sometimes strength isn't loud. Sometimes it's the reason everyone makes it home. Why did survival feel heavier than the storm once the silence finally settled? The mountain exhaled after the blizzard passed. Not relief, release. Snow lay sculpted into sharp ridges and smooth drifts, as if the storm had taken time to leave its signature behind. At Fob Kestrel's perch, generators hummed, medics moved with exhausted urgency, and rescued men were carried inside under harsh white lights. Life resumed its shape, but something underneath had shifted. Anna Sharma felt it as she walked. Her muscles screamed with delayed pain. Not injury, fatigue earned honestly. Every step back into the compound felt unreal, like crossing a line she'd spent years pretending didn't exist anymore. The world she'd buried had clawed its way back to the surface, not with noise or celebration, but with necessity. In the medical tent, she stayed long enough to transfer care. She gave reports in clipped, precise sentences: core temperatures, fluid loss, frostbite risk. Miller's leg would require evacuation once air cleared. She answered questions before they were asked. Then she stepped away. No one stopped her. That was new. She returned to the supply tent because it was quiet, because order lived there, because counting and cleaning were rituals that reminded her she could still choose who she was after everything else was stripped away. She laid her gear out on canvas with care, every buckle aligned, every edge checked. The ice axe rested beside the rope, old companions, honest tools. She ran the stone along the blade, the sound rhythmic, grounding. Shiang, shiang, shiang. The sound pulled her backward in time before she noticed. High altitude, thin air, blood on snow that didn't melt. She blinked and the memory receded. She kept sharpening. Outside, the base whispered. News traveled fast in places like this, faster than orders, faster than reports. The story had already changed in a dozen mouths. Some told it louder, some made it cleaner, some turned her into something she was. A hero. She hated that word. Heroes were supposed to be willing. She hadn't been willing. She'd been necessary. Footsteps crunched near the tent flap. She didn't look up. Major Davies entered quietly. He didn't interrupt the rhythm. He waited. "I've canceled the court-martial," he said eventually. She nodded once, no gratitude. "Captain Thorne submitted a statement," he added. "He took responsibility, said he failed his command." Anna paused the stone mid-stroke, not because of surprise, because of weight. "Failure is survivable," she said. "Ego is." Davies exhaled slowly. "Command wants to know where you came from." She resumed sharpening. "You'll tell them what's in the file," she said. "Nothing more." "That won't satisfy them." "It never does." Silence returned. Davies studied her hands, the scars, the steadiness. He saw what command would see eventually, and what frightened them. "I owe you," he said. "No," Anna replied. "You listen, that's not a debt, that's leadership." He left without arguing. Later that night, sleep refused to come. Anna lay on her cot, eyes open, listening to the mountain settle. Her body demanded rest. Her mind rejected it. She thought of Miller's pulse under her fingers, of Diaz's panicked breathing slowing, of Evan's eyes when he recognized the tattoo. She rolled onto her side and stared at the steel wall. She'd left Archangel because surviving hadn't felt like living anymore, because every mission stacked ghosts higher until even breathing felt borrowed. Logistics had been quiet, predictable, a place to disappear without dishonoring what she'd been. But disappearing hadn't erased the skills or the responsibility. Morning came pale and brittle. The storm left behind a world scrubbed raw. Anna returned to routine before anyone could ask her not to. Inventory, requests, corrections. The work was grounding, honest. She noticed the change immediately. Privates straightened when she passed. Conversations paused. Jokes died halfway out of mouths. Respect made her uneasy. She corrected a mislabeled crate. No one laughed. Captain Thorne reappeared 2 days later, arm still in a sling, jaw bruised. He didn't gather an audience. He found her alone near the depot. "Sergeant," he said. She waited. "I was wrong," he continued. "It cost him visibly. About you, about listening." She met his eyes calmly. No triumph lived there. "You were wrong about the mountain," she said. "It doesn't forgive rank." He nodded. "I've recommended changes, rations, weather authority." "Good." He hesitated. "I'm transferring." She absorbed that quietly. "Good luck," she said, meaning it neutrally. When he left, she felt lighter, not vindicated, unburdened. Days passed. The base settled into a new rhythm. Miller's team stabilized. Air cleared enough for evacuation. Lives continued. But command didn't forget. Orders arrived sealed and formal, requests for debriefs, clarifications, interviews disguised as curiosity. Anna complied minimally, until one message arrived that didn't pretend. Task Force Archangel requested confirmation of identity. She stared at the datapad longer than necessary. That night she climbed a short ridge overlooking the fob. The cold bit, but gently now. Stars burned sharp overhead. She thought of the woman she'd been, the one who ran into storms because someone had to, the one who learned too late that survival carried its own cost. She also thought of the woman she was now, the one who saw danger forming before it struck, who prepared instead of reacted, who counted calories because numbers saved lives just as effectively as bullets. She understood then. Redemption wasn't erasing the past. It was choosing how to use it. When the response went out, it was simple. Identity confirmed, status active reserve, assignment declined. For now, she descended back toward the lights, toward the quiet work that waited, toward a life balanced carefully between what she had been and what she refused to lose herself becoming again. Sometimes the storm doesn't end you. Sometimes it reminds you why you learned to stand in the first place. And sometimes dignity doesn't speak at all. It simply keeps working. Why did the silence after survival feel more dangerous than the storm itself? The mountain was calm now, too calm. Anna Sharma noticed it before anyone else. The way the wind no longer argued with the ridgeline, the way snow settled instead of drifting, the way sound carried again. Calm at altitude was deceptive. It made people careless. It made them believe the worst had passed. She didn't believe that. She stood in the supply tent at dawn, breath steady, hands busy. Inventory was finished, but she reorganized anyway, not because it was required, because movement kept the mind from wandering places it didn't need to go. Outside, Fob Kestrel's perch looked almost peaceful. Men laughed again. Someone played music too loud from a speaker that crackled in protest. Survival had loosened discipline in small, dangerous ways. Anna felt the pull of it, the human urge to exhale, to pretend this place was temporary. She checked the weather feeds again. Pressure stable for now. The message came mid-morning, routed through 3 command channels and stamped with more authority than courtesy. Unscheduled aerial insertion, classified payload, arrival within 48 hours. Anna read it twice, then a third time. The mountain didn't give second chances, and it didn't respect secrecy. She walked straight to Major Davies. "This is a mistake," she said, datapad already in his hand. "Your landing zone isn't secure for this window." Davies rubbed his eyes. He looked older than he had a week ago. "It's above my pay grade." "They always are," she replied calmly, "until people die." Davies studied her. He'd learned painfully that her tone wasn't argumentative, it was predictive. "They're bringing equipment," he said. "New surveillance package. Command wants eyes deeper into the pass." They already have eyes, Anna said. They just don't like what they're seeing. Davies didn't argue. That worried her. Who's in charge of the insertion? She asked. He hesitated. A civilian contractor, oversight team attached. Anna felt something tighten in her chest. Not fear, familiar frustration. Civilians didn't hear the mountain. The contractor arrived first. Slick gear, confident stride, boots that hadn't earned their scuffs. He spoke fast, smiled often, dismissed concerns with practiced ease. We've done this in worse, he said, waving at the ridgeline. Weather models show a clear window. Anna stood slightly apart, arms crossed, watching the sky. Models don't feel pressure changes, she said. People do. He laughed. Your logistics right. She met his gaze evenly. I'm alive. That ended the conversation. Preparations continued anyway. Anna adjusted supply orders quietly, added redundancy, cached emergency rations where no one asked her to. She moved like a ghost through the base, fixing problems before they became visible. Evans noticed. You think something's coming, he said one evening as they worked side by side. Yes. What kind? She paused, considering honesty. The kind that punishes confidence. The insertion began at dusk 2 days later. The sky was clear, stars sharp. The helicopter's rotors beat against thin air, sound echoing farther than it should. Anna stood at the edge of the LZ, helmet on, chin strap loose. She watched the way snow lifted, not outward but upward. Wrong. She keyed her mic. Abort, she said quietly. The contractor laughed over comms. Negative, we're green. The mountain answered first. Wind surged down the pass without warning, a sudden violent exhale. The helicopter lurched, lights flickering. The pilot fought it, skill evident, but skill wasn't always enough. Anna ran. She didn't wait for permission, didn't wait for consensus. She ran into rotor wash and screaming wind, signaling with her body, her arms, her presence. The helicopter touched down hard, too hard. The payload shifted, metal screamed. One of the civilians stumbled, leg caught beneath a sliding crate. Anna reached him before anyone else. The wind knocked her sideways. She planted, grabbed the crate, heaved with everything she had. Pain lanced up her shoulder. She didn't let go. Evans joined her, then Diaz, then others. They freed the man seconds before the helicopter lifted again, this time uncontrolled, scraping the ridgeline before disappearing into cloud. Silence followed, heavy, accusatory. The civilian screamed now, pain finally registering. His leg was wrong, bone where bone shouldn't be. Anna knelt beside him, already working. Stay with me, she said, voice steady. Look at me, breathe. He looked terrified, not of pain, of how close he'd come to being erased. Later in the medical tent, Davies confronted the contractor. Voices rose, authority clashed. Anna didn't listen. She cleaned blood from her gloves, reset gear, logged the incident with precision that left no room for reinterpretation. Command responded with fury. Questions came sharp and fast. Why was the insertion attempted? Why were warnings ignored? Why was a logistics sergeant issuing abort calls? Anna answered none of them directly. She submitted data, weather logs, pressure readings, video timestamps. Facts didn't argue. They convicted. That night she climbed the ridge again. The sky had clouded over, stars fatting, another system forming, slower this time, smarter. She felt tired, not physically, emotionally. She tried to disappear, tried to be small. The mountain had refused. She realized then what unsettled her most. It wasn't being seen. It was being needed again. Archangel had needed her until it broke her. Kestrel's perch needed her in quieter ways, but the pull was the same. Responsibility crept in slowly, wrapped in reason. She thought of Miller walking again someday, of Diaz learning to listen, of Evan standing straighter not out of fear but understanding. She thought of the civilian's eyes when the crate nearly crushed him, how quickly confidence turned to truth. She knew then she couldn't stay forever. But she couldn't leave yet. The mountain wasn't finished teaching. The storm arrived overnight, gentler than before but persistent. Anna adjusted schedules, delayed patrols, no one argued. That was new, too. Respect, she realized, wasn't loud. It was compliance without resentment. She lay on her cot later, eyes closed, finally letting exhaustion claim her. Sleep came in fragments, dreams without faces, wind without sound. Before drifting fully under, a thought settled in her chest, quiet and certain. Strength wasn't about returning to who you were. It was about choosing who you became when the world kept testing you. And sometimes, redemption wasn't a single moment of courage. It was the decision to keep standing watch, long after the storm passed. Why did it feel harder to stay than it ever did to leave? Anna woke before the alarm, as she always did now, not because she needed to, but because the mountain demanded attention. The wind had shifted again overnight, softer but restless, like something packing just beyond sight. She lay still for a moment, listening, letting her body inventory itself. Bruised shoulder, tight calves, healing blisters, all acceptable. What unsettled her was the quiet. Fob Kestrel's perch had learned her rhythm. That was dangerous. Places shouldn't rely on people. They should rely on systems. People left. Storms didn't. She dressed, layered, stepped outside. The sunrise painted the peaks in cold gold, beautiful in the way things were beautiful when they didn't care whether you survived them. She checked the weather station herself, fingers dancing over controls with unconscious fluency. Pressure stable, for now. But there was a lag in the upper-level readings she didn't like. She logged it, flagged it. No one questioned the flag anymore. That still felt strange. At breakfast, Evan sat across from her without speaking. He stopped filling silence with noise. Growth often looked like restraint. "They're asking about you again," he said eventually. "Command." Anna nodded. "They always will. They want you reassigned, somewhere louder." She stirred powdered eggs she didn't intend to eat. "I'm not going." Evan studied her carefully. "You sure?" "No," she said honestly, "but I know what happens if I do." He didn't press. He'd learned better. The request came officially that afternoon. Temporary operational advisory role, broader authority, better resources, a polite way of saying, "Stop pretending you're logistics." Anna read the message twice, then once more. She thought of Archangel, of nights without names, of missions that ended in silence instead of applause, of being needed until there was nothing left but function. She forwarded the message to Davies with a single line attached. Delay response, 48 hours. The mountain gave her the answer first. That night alarms screamed, not weather, not enemy. A supply convoy overdue from the valley. Last known position, the lower switchbacks. Narrow, exposed, predictable. Too predictable. Anna was moving before Davies finished speaking. "They won't make it through the next temperature drop," she said. "Engine stall, fuel gels, then panic." Davies hesitated. "We can't spare another team." Anna looked at him, really looked. "You can spare me," she said, "or you can write names." He didn't argue. She took a smaller team this time. No experimental gear, no theatrics, just preparation and discipline. She chose Evans, Diaz, two others who had learned to listen instead of perform. The descent was treacherous but familiar. The convoy was worse than expected. One truck jackknifed against the rock wall. Another idled uselessly, fuel thickening into sludge. The drivers stood outside, stamping feet, fear turning sharp. Anna took command without announcing it. "Engines off," she ordered, "now." One driver protested. She cut him off with a look. "Engines waste fuel when you're not moving." Heat comes from people, not machines. She redistributed supplies, started controlled warming cycles, showed them how to insulate fuel lines with what they had. She worked fast, calmly, as if this were routine, because for her it was. A rockslide hit halfway through the recovery, small but loud enough to spike panic. Dust filled the air. One of the younger drivers froze, breath ragged. Anna grabbed his shoulders. "Look at me," she said. "You're here, that's enough, breathe." He did. They got the convoy moving again inch by inch. It took hours. Darkness fell fully before the lights of the fob appeared above them like a promise that might still vanish. When they arrived, applause tried to start. Anna shut it down with a raised hand. "Everyone alive?" she asked. "Yes." "Then go warm up." She walked away before anyone could thank her. Later, alone in the supply tent, she finally allowed herself to sit. Just sit. The adrenaline drained, leaving behind a familiar hollow ache, not physical. Purpose always came with a cost. Evans found her there. "You saved them," he said. She didn't look up. "They saved themselves. I just reminded them how." He hesitated. "Is that why you stay?" That made her pause. She considered the question honestly. "I stay because leaving feels like abandoning something unfinished," she said slowly. "And staying feels like becoming something I already was." Neither option felt clean. That night, she drafted her response to command. Not a refusal, not an acceptance. A condition. She sent it and shut the datapad off before doubt could creep in. Outside, the mountain rested under starlight, indifferent as ever. Anna stood at the edge of the compound, breath fogging, eyes scanning shadows out of habit more than necessity. She realized then that redemption wasn't about balance. It was about choice, made again and again, even when the outcome stayed uncertain. She didn't know how long she'd remain at Kestrel's perch. But she knew one thing with quiet certainty. As long as she stayed, fewer names would be written. And sometimes that was enough. Why did leaving feel like the bravest thing she'd ever have to do? The mountain didn't protest her decision. That was what unsettled Anna Sharma most. No sudden storm, no screaming wind, no final test carved in ice and blood, just stillness, vast, cold, indifferent. The kind of quiet that waited for you to decide who you were without forcing the answer. The response from command came at dawn. Approved, advisory role recognized, permanent reassignment declined by subject. No reprimand, no praise, just acknowledgement. Anna stared at the words longer than she needed to. For years, decisions like this had been made for her, orders wrapped in authority, necessity masquerading as destiny. This time, the choice had been hers, fully, cleanly. She exhaled slowly and closed the datapad. Fob Kestrel's perch woke around her. Boots crunched. Radios crackled. Life resumed its careful choreography in thin air. She moved through it one last time, not as a ghost, not as a legend, just as a soldier finishing her watch. She started in the supply tent. Crates aligned. Labels clean. Emergency caches logged and hidden where only those who listened would ever find them. She left notes where they mattered, weather patterns, fuel behavior, altitude mistakes people always made when they thought they were smarter than the mountain. Not instructions. Warnings. She knew who would read them properly. Evans found her there, leaning against a crate, arms crossed, as if trying to memorize the shape of the space with her in it. "So it's true," he said quietly. She nodded. "Went. Before the next cycle." He swallowed, feels fast. "Staying longer would make it harder," she replied. He hesitated. "For who?" She met his eyes. "Yes." They walked together to the edge of the compound. The ridge stretched beyond them, sharp and endless. Somewhere out there, storms were forming that didn't yet have names. You changed this place, Evans said. Anna shook her head. No, I reminded people it doesn't care. That's still changing something. Maybe, but she didn't argue. The farewell wasn't official. No formation, no speeches. That would have made it about her, and it never had been. Still, word spread. Diaz showed up with a quiet nod and an awkward thank you. He didn't know how to finish. Chun didn't speak at all, just stood straighter than he ever had before. Even the medics paused when she passed, their looks different now, not reverent, not fearful, trusting. Major Davies met her near the helipad as the transport warmed up. I tried to convince them to keep you, he admitted. I know, Anna said, thank you. He hesitated, then extended a hand. She shook it. Whatever comes next, he said, this base will be alive because of you. Anna looked past him, to the tents, the ridgeline, the quiet machinery of survival. No, she said gently, it will be alive because people learn to listen. The helicopter lifted smoothly this time, no protest from the wind, no sudden violence from the sky. As the base shrank beneath her, Anna felt something loosen in her chest, not relief, release. She didn't look back. Later, much later, Fob Kestrel's perch would endure storms without her. Not all of them, but more than it would have before. Weather calls would be delayed, rations adjusted, ego checked sooner. Small changes, the kind that saved lives quietly. Anna moved on to places that didn't know her name. She took advisory roles that ended before they could become expectations. She taught without staying long enough to be needed. She learned, finally, how to step away before the weight returned. Sometimes at altitude, when the wind shifted just right, she felt the old pull, the instinct to run toward the worst of it, to become the answer again. When that happened, she paused. She remembered the steel container, the bucket of ice, the single strike that wasn't about anger but boundary, the moment she chose dignity over silence. She remembered the mountain, not as an enemy but as a truth. Strength didn't announce itself. It prepared. It listened. It acted when necessary and stepped back when it was. Years later, someone would tell the story wrong. They always did. They'd make it louder, cleaner, easier to consume. Anna never corrected them, because the truth had never needed witnesses. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It doesn't demand recognition. It doesn't linger for applause. It simply acts, and leaves the world quieter, safer, and alive behind it.